Thanks for clicking. Canadians are getting increasingly worried about both the intention and the ability of the Bank of Canada to get our inflation rate under control. This according to a new poll released by Nanos Research. According to the poll, Canadians are increasingly concerned that the Bank of Canada isn't as committed as it should be to getting our inflation rate back to the 2% target range, and even if it was committed, Canadians aren't confident that the bank could do so in the first place.
I'm not stupid. I'm smart.
The newly released data is especially relevant as the Bank of Canada is more concerned, right now at least, with changing expectations, with changing people's attitudes, than it is with actually getting the inflation rate immediately under control. So what I want to do today is go over the poll, discuss the implications, especially in light of what the Bank of Canada said last week when it raised rates by 50 basis points, and then discuss what to look for next. Canada's inflation rate for the month of May is expected to be released in a couple of weeks, which, in addition to the data released in this poll, will probably weigh heavily on the minds of the Bank of Canada as it looks to hike rates in July. We'll obviously have updates out on that data on this channel. Make sure you click like and subscribe to get those updates, but for now, let's get into this poll. On to this poll. The Nanos survey conducted between May 26th and 30th found that a majority of Canadians expect that Canada's inflation rate will be 8% or higher in 12 months' time, with 2 out of 10 of those surveyed thinking that our inflation rate will be higher than 10%. Further, the poll found that less than 25% of respondents think that inflation will be less than 4 or 5% in 12 months' time, which is definitely a big concern for the Bank of Canada as their target range is 2 to 3%, and it looks as though at least 75% of respondents don't think that will be there within a year. The poll also found that Canadians are evenly split about the bank's commitment to reduce our inflation rate, with 45% who are not confident or who are somewhat not confident in the bank's commitment to reduce inflation, and 49% who are confident or somewhat confident that the bank's committed to reduce our inflation rate. So while more than half of Canadians think the Bank of Canada will be unable to get our inflation rate below 8% in the next 12 months, almost half of respondents question its intent to do so in the first place. And this definitely isn't great news, especially given the bank's worries as expressed last week when they announced their rate hikes.
It's kind of 1 year and 2 year out expectations have just been rising even further out, and that's really what's worrying us, and that's one of the aspects that we're kind of, reacting here and saying what we'll need to do.
Managing expectations and restoring confidence. These are the 2 cornerstones of bringing down the inflation rate, and it doesn't look as though the Bank of Canada is measuring great on either.
You can't do anything!
During the Volcker shock of the 1980s, then Fed Chairman Paul Volcker raised interest rates massively high as a means to get control of the inflation rate and to change inflationary expectations. But it doesn't appear from this data that A, the Bank of Canada has the confidence of Canadians to get the inflation rate under control, or B, that it would be willing to take the heat from doing so. In this data, this poll is definitely going to weigh on the minds of the Bank of Canada when it makes its rate announcement next month. As we said, it's not just getting the inflation under control, it's reducing inflationary expectations that prices aren't going to continue to rise. When the bank fails to get inflation expectations under control, it induces people to think that they might as well spend money now because things are going to cost more later. And once that happens, it creates a self-reinforcing loop where Canadians spend more now, creating more inflation, creating more of a problem than the Bank of Canada is trying to fix. As a result, we very well might see the Bank of Canada go even higher on interest rates next month. They've already raised interest rates 50 basis points this month, and there's already murmurings that they could be going 75 basis points next month. And Deputy Bank of Canada Paul Beaudry alluded to this in the rate announcement last week, saying that the bank may very well consider going faster and higher in its rate increases going further.
We're scared that this inflation becomes entrenched, and so we see this aspect of potentially needing to go higher than we thought before, and we still have the idea that we want to get there as quickly as possible. So that could involve doing more moves in a row, or it could involve bigger moves. All this will depend exactly on the data that comes in.
So yeah, these polls are very important, almost more important than the housing data that we're starting to see come out, which is showing that the Bank of Canada's rate hikes are actually having an effect on prices. And while these are having an effect on house prices, the economy is much bigger than housing.
He lies.
And the polls like this show that that the Bank of Canada is not having the effect that they're hoping to have on the expectations of Canadians. Canadians, by and large, are still expecting inflation to go over 8% over the next 12 months. And if you think inflation is going to be higher than 8% in the next 12 months, if you think that goods that you're going to want in 6 months are going to be more expensive than they are now, you're going to spend the money now and save yourself the money that it would cost in 6 months' time, which only helps to drive up demand, which drives up inflation even further. And this is what they're talking about when they say inflation gets unmoored. When people think that the Bank of Canada couldn't stop inflation if they wanted to, and they're not sure if they want to. That is the unmooring of inflation, which is what the Bank of Canada is ultra concerned about. So, I do think this poll is going to weigh heavily on their minds when they make their rate announcement, which, if we get more data like this throughout the month, only will increase the probability that they do go for a supersized and ultra high rate hike, maybe in that 75 basis points area. We'll obviously have updates out on their announcements and on that data that we get throughout the month on this channel. If you want to get those updates, make sure you click like and subscribe, but thanks so much for watching.